Everyone. So this is the second lesson on the photography skills brief from the new spec. So this is the full brief. We'll have seen it before. Hopefully and probably you should have done the first part already. We should have worked on 1.1. So if I go into this and make it bigger. Oh, okay, does that. Okay, so last lesson, you will have been looking at other photographers' work and carrying out some research for at least two professional photographers with at least three examples of each of their work and evaluated their work. So this part of the unit, this is now sort of being inspired by their work to develop your own ideas. So the key assessment criteria for this particular part is 2.1, respond to, develop and evaluate ideas through an imaginative exploration of location, composition, texture and light source. So yeah, you're starting to sort of use that research that you did to start thinking about your own photo shoots and ideas. So this is task 2 on the assignment brief, and there is a list of sort of pre-production paperworks and plans and stuff to help you develop that with a test shoot as well. So you've got a mind map, an intention statement, thumbnail sketches, photo shoot plan, and test shoots or test shots. So this is taking inspiration from the photography styles you have previously looked at, aim to respond to this and develop ideas by creating all of those things. So scrolling down onto my slide. So for my example, we're going to pretend that I've done research into some of these artists that I'm showing you now, because I needed some inspiration to do some sort of demonstration pieces for you. So I've looked briefly at some work of Olivia Parker, Edward Weston, Andrew White, and then Nadine Flynn. These kind of were the artists I was sort of inspired by when I was doing a search myself. Obviously, you'll have research pages, evaluation pieces that are full with writing on. Mine don't have those at the moment. And the first task on that list was a mind map. So from looking at those artists that I've looked at and some of the images I've collected, I've started sort of scribbling down ideas of what I could do being inspired by each of those artists. Now, your original task said to look at least two photographers. I've looked at 4 at the minute, and that's fine. But you can, if you want to just do the 2, that's absolutely fine as well. If you want to do more, also fine. So I've basically, the best way I chose to do it was to list the photographers that I'd looked at on my mind map on my sketchbook that I had, and then list some bullet points of ideas underneath of what I could do based on the technique they use, the sort of content they feature in their work, the framing, and just thinking about what I could do. So when I've been coming up with these ideas, for me, obviously we're all different, we've all got different things going on. For me, I was thinking, what can I realistically actually do easily and do it well? For me, there was no point me, let's say, looking at a landscape photographer who does loads of landscape or architecture sort of work. There's no point me doing that because realistically, with my work-life balance situation, I'm likely not going to be able to go and take photographs of different buildings or different landscapes inspired by a certain photographer. For me, that's just not going to work. Equally, for me, it's not going to work if I was to look at photographers that had got lots of models or people in their shoots. For just because I just don't have lots of models or people around me right now, just because of just how my life is. So and I appreciate all of our students here. I know that you're fitting a course in potentially in your working hours or in between your working hours and possibly juggling work and life and family and that kind of thing. So be realistic as to what you can do with what you've got around you. So I've listed objects on this that I know I've got in the house. I actually found more than I knew I had when I went looking. So yeah, definitely make it doable. That's sort of my tips with this. And so I've written down lots of ideas based on the artist, but I've also then started to try and think about how I could combine some of the styles or sort of merge them. So that's why you'll see I've got these arrows going in between like Edward Weston and Andrew White and Olivia Parker and Andrew White, thinking of how I can, push it a bit more by merging things. Now, there's no restriction at all on sort of how, if you do that or not. The main thing is that you've got to show, if we go back to the task, the main thing on this is that you've got to respond to, develop and evaluate ideas through an imaginative exploration of location, composition, texture, and light source. So those are the things that you need to show. So that's why on mine, I have mentioned that I've got different utensils laid out in an interesting way, selected objects on a sheet or a blanket. Well, I had something else. Spring onions in a row under the Edward Weston one, because I'm thinking about the composition. Banana texture close up, onion cut in half close up, filling the frame. I'm thinking about the composition. Um, it might be that you could argue that it's not clear about my location. So obviously, I would need to provide more evidence for that going forward. So that moves us on to the next task, really. So the next task on your task sheet, on your list, is creating an intention statement. So moving on to that. So this is sort of a structure to help you write your intention statement. I'm not saying that you have to answer all of these. This is purely for help, for guidance if you may struggle with this. So there are different sections: introduction and inspiration, location, composition, texture. Those three and the light source one are the key ones there of what it said in these assessment criteria. Creative intent and challenges, and then post-production and editing. It's just trying to get you to think about the whole process, really, from start to finish. So like I said, please don't think you have to answer all of these questions, but obviously please focus on those ones that the assessment criteria is clearly stating. Do think about your location. For me, with my photo shoots, it's likely to be within my house or within my local area, based on sort of, like I said before, based on what I realistically think I can do. But if you know that one of your artists is a landscape or sort of cityscape photographer, and you are in that area quite a lot, then obviously that might make more sense for you to do that. It depends on where we are, what we're doing, etc. Composition, think about techniques that you might explore, whether you'll have rule of thirds featuring in your work, leading lines, framing, and then symmetry. And then with mine, with like one of the ideas I had, if I go back, with the strawberries one for this Edward Weston idea, in my head, my vision is that the strawberry texture with the seeds is going to take up the whole of the frame. Whether that ends up being in the photograph that I take or whether that ends up being when I edit it, somehow I might have to crop it down a bit, who knows. So really do think about location, composition, texture. How will you incorporate texture in your photos? Soft, rough, smooth, and detailed. With the particular artist I looked at, with particularly Edward Weston, go back to his work here, there's lots of texture in there anyway, so it's going to sort of happen anyway. Go to this, the strawberry has a certain texture, the banana texture is a certain texture. Some of these are going to happen anyway, but then you might want to think about the backgrounds that you choose to photograph on. The background for me, it's like surfaces that I'm putting stuff on top of, or the background or the backdrop that's featuring behind it. So you might choose to think about that in more detail. You might choose to have like a furry sort of surface. I think on one of these, it's not showing it on this one actually. Well, this artist, she has got some sort of fabric textures going on, but there was another one I found either of this artist or somebody else where they had quite a furry looking surface that they'd place things on. Um, she also has sort of quite rough looking sort of wooden boards, wooden panels, that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, have a really good think about every part of this. This artist has obviously got concrete flooring outside, for at least two of those pictures. Um, this artist, the textures within the actual subject itself. And yeah, there's a bit of texture within the subjects in this particular artist work as well from my work. So yeah, have a look back at your artists that you've looked at previously and think about how they have thought about and shown the location, the composition, the texture, the light source as well. Light source, are you going to use natural light? Is it going to be artificial or studio light or mixed? I mean, currently I'm in my lounge. I've just got a normal lounge light bulb. But could it be that, I appreciate that not everyone's going to have a whole lighting set up in the house to do this with. So could it be that you use your mobile phone torch to do anything? Could it be that you have access to go into a studio to get a certain type of lighting? Could it be just that you want like a lampshade or a lamp, not a lampshade, a lamp sort of lighting to create a certain kind of mood with your photograph? So you could easily, get something from around the home with that. It could be a torch. It could be natural light. You could, set your table up if it's a still life. You could set your table up next to the window or even outside if it's sort of okay weather, even if it's a sunny day. So it's entirely up to you, but you need to think about it. And again, think back to what we with the artist doing that you originally looked at. How are you going to control the lighting to achieve a specific mood or effect? Will you use any lighting modifiers, reflectors, diffusers, flash, etc.? And how does your lighting approach compare to your chosen photographer's work as well? So look at those in, is the ones to focus on when you're doing your intention statement. And if any of the other parts help you too, to just think about your shoot and think about what you're going to do, please do use it. And then your photo shoot plan. Again, this is just for guidance, this. You don't have to use this, but you're completely welcome to. I will put this within the resources folder for you. This, again, just to now helps you plan a specific shoot, specific shoots. So put your name, you're the photographer, put the date, put the time, lighting conditions expected, because the time does sometimes make a difference to how your lighting is going to look. Like I say, I'm in a living room myself. I've got two lights on, but the windows are open, and when it starts getting dark, that's going to have an effect on my photographs. Put your photo shoot title, your idea and your concept, your photographer inspiration, so who and what you're inspired by, the location that you're going to be in. So me, I'd put my living room. You might put that you're in a certain town. You might have chosen to take yourself somewhere specific, outside, outdoors, or you might have even gone to like a certain place where that the architecture or the structure of the place looks really good. Think about the location challenges. Is that so? In some cases, you might think in some places like stadiums, for example, or big public spaces, you might find that permits are required. Because I found this in the past with classes I've taught. If you rock up with a DSLR camera, you might find security approaching you sometimes because you need a permit. So make sure, do your research. Even some parks, you might need permission. So you might need to do a bit of research and just email somebody, ring somebody just to check whether you need a permit or not, or just to say, listen, I want to come down, I want to do a photo shoot here. Is it okay? Do I need anything? They might just take your name down just so that they're aware that you're there. So just think about those kind of things. Alternative backup location if for whatever reason your original idea doesn't pan out, is there another nearby location you could go to? Models, if you need them, who are they going to be? Have you already asked them? Are they going to be available? Wardrobe considerations, obviously, depending on your ideas, thinking about the inspiration that you've had from the artist you've looked at, you need to think about what your model's going to wear, the model poses and their actions. Is it going to be certain poses, or is it going to be very natural? Props that you might need. So for me, if I was doing this, all the things that I've got Lego on my mind map. I had Lego, I had toy cars, I had spring onions, I had strawberries, things like that. So those are my props. And then think about your photography equipment needed. Now, lots of people mobile phones are probably completely suitable for doing this work, because there's loads of settings on your phones these days which make your photographs look, really good actually. So it might be just your mobile phone, but you might also consider a tripod. You might consider a certain type of light source, whether it is a studio light or whether it's a lamp or a torch or something like that. A tripod if you want your angle to be a certain way. Think about getting a tripod if you have access to one. You could also look into ways of how you could do that sort of with things that you have in your home. Lighting plan, think about your lighting plan as well. What you're going to have, that kind of links to your equipment. Health and safety considerations. If you're outdoors, if you're in a different location to your normal sort of own environment, think about the health and safety considerations. If you're near a road, be mindful of the traffic, be mindful of the pedestrians on the pavement, be mindful of sort of lots of things like that, particularly as well if you're in a public indoor space, think about the health and safety considerations there. And then for shot details, just do a few notes. You could write shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, shot 4, shot 5, shot 6, etc. And just do a little note of how each one is going to go, sort of the idea you've got in your head for this particular shoot. Because the idea with a photo shoot plan is that it's for a specific shoot. So you might end up doing more than one photo shoot plan because you might have 2 or 3 shoots planned, because this relates to one shoot. Then next, thumbnail sketches, just visualizing what you want to achieve. They don't have to be the most perfect drawings in the world at all. As you can see, mine certainly isn't. But just sort of planning out what your shot might look like, what your framing might look like. So I've done some rough sketches there, and I've done some labeling to try and sort of explain in a bit better perhaps what's going on in them if you can't make out what things are. So yeah, and you might have lots of those sketches to help with this process, because it all goes back to that assessment criteria. This one here. Respond to, develop and evaluate ideas for an imaginative exploration of location, composition, texture and light source. Every piece of work that we're doing here, we're trying to make sure our evidence is strong for this assessment criteria. So every piece of paperwork that we're doing here is designed to provide the evidence in some way. So if if it might be labelled on your photo shoot plan about your location, it might be labelled on your mind map about your composition. It depends sort of how your ideas are going and that kind of thing. And then, where's my slide one? So, and then, assuming you've done the next task says on the list is carry out test shots. So you've done your photo shoot plan, and now carry out some test shots in relation to your intentions, ideas. So assuming that you've now done that, so you've done your test shots based on your photo shoot plans and all your ideas, you've done your test shots, and here's some of my test shots. Obviously you need to document your test shoot, so create a contact sheet with all your photographs, and there's a couple of ways you can do a contact sheet. There's a really easy way where you put all your photographs into a folder on your computer, like I've done here. and you literally just screenshot the thumbnail versions of your photographs like that, and then just pop it on a slide, like I did there. And then let me get rid of that, it's in my way. Another way to do contact sheet in Photoshop, I've got Photoshop open, is to go to File, Automate, Contact Sheet 2. Then up here it says Source Images, use folder or files. Now I'm saying folder because I've got a folder full of images. Use folder, and I'm going to choose where it is, and mine is on my desktop, and it's that one. Press OK, and it's telling it where I want my photographs to come from to create my contact sheet, and then I press OK. Now, mine was taking a while before. It was doing all this stuff. Eventually, it all came good. So let's just leave that for a bit whilst that's doing that in the background. And you can circle your best pictures. You could then make reference to your best pictures. I'm just randomly doing this by using the number of your photographs when you're doing your evaluation of your test shots. Or you could scribble some notes on here as well. You could print this out and scribble notes on it by hand and then scan it back in. So yeah, that's your contact sheet that allows you to see all of your photographs in one go. So you can pick out your best ones, your worst ones, etc. For me, I did, when I did my test shoots, I did look at my thumbnail sketches for most of these, but in some cases, not all of them were possible to do at that time. So I found other objects whilst I was looking for some of the objects in these photographs. So I did some sort of additional photographs here. But maybe I'll stick with the ones that I've obviously planned to do. So get rid of those two. The car one. But obviously this is a test shot anyway. You're testing, your ideas out, you're testing the location, you're testing the lighting, you're testing everything about your setup. So that's what you're going to be writing about. Let's go back to Photoshop because it was loading up contact sheets. So it was taking its time to do it, but eventually mine's done it. And this is what it looks like. And same, you could either screenshot this and pop it on your slides, or you could export this as a JPEG and put them on your slides as well. And mine's actually created 2 different contact sheets. So my photos took more than 1 page. So going back to slides and the task. So your next task at the bottom, aim to evaluate your test shots and ideas and refine if needed. Refer to your use of the photographic materials and equipment. So again, I've got a slide to help with this, but again, it doesn't necessarily have to, you don't necessarily have to use all the questions. It's again there to help you. So there's some questions about a general evaluation, just about a general comment about your photo shoot, your test shoot, composition and aesthetic choices, talking about how effective is your composition, are the subject placement, angles and framing working as intended, are there any distractions in the background or foreground that take away from the intended focus. With mine, initially there was distractions in the background, so I thought, I need to get a backdrop of some sort. I got some foam board for one of mine because of that. So I can talk about that in mine. Do your images have a strong visual impact? If not, what could be improved? How has the lighting affected the mood and overall feel of the image? I was finding with mine, I was having to play around with lighting because I was getting shadows, and I didn't quite yet solve that problem. But I think I need to go to a different part of the house for that actually. Have you successfully captured textures you intended to? If not, what adjustments could be made? Is there a need to experiment with different light sources? Natural, artificial, soft, harsh, direct, diffused. So yeah, you've got this list to help you with that evaluation. You don't need to comment on or answer all of the questions in your evaluation. You do what best suits you, your shoot, and what you think will help you to make your next shoot even better, because the next part of this assignment brief let's move on to that. I'll just show you quickly. Demonstrate the ability to make effective use of photographic materials and equipment. So that will be task 3, where you will be carrying out a photo shoot and annotating your photo shoot. 3.2. Let's just quickly look on that one. 3.2. Yeah, so you're writing about your shoot. So your next sort of task for the next lesson will be you actually carrying out your photo shoot for this. So yeah, so have fun with this because it's quite a nice little project where you've found some photographs or photographers that inspired you, that you really like the look of, and now you get to sort of experiment and play around with ideas of how you can create your own work inspired by the artist or those artists. And if you have any questions, please pop me a message on Teams chat and I'll get back to you, and I'll see you soon.